Hello. This airing of Face to Face with the Spotlight is in conjunction with the Spotlight newspaper, a beacon of news for the southeast region of Saline County. The Spotlight distributes on the third Thursday of each month for free. Sign up for a digital copy on the Spotlight Facebook page. The Spotlight thanks Tri-Valley Seed, owned and operated in Gypsum by Justin Knopf and Garrett Kennedy, for supporting the relationships it takes to sustain community. Tri-Valley Seed offers Pioneer brand seed product, and when they say with you from the go, that includes being with you when issues arise that are important to the community. The Spotlight also thanks Waddles Heating and Cooling in Salina, the local Carrier Factory authorized dealer. Waddles Heating and Cooling has met all the requirements specified by Carrier regarding customer satisfaction, professionalism, ability to honor warranties, and have the appropriate licenses and liability coverage to serve you. Waddles Heating and Cooling, a business conducted by Charlie and Elaine Waddle and their son Bruce, residents of rural Kipp, as well as many other committed employees, make customer service their top priority. Additional businesses worthy of appreciation include Ad Astra Books and Coffee House, the Citizen State Bank and Trust Company, Nelson Green Line, Hobbs Creek Veterinary Services, the Saline County Farm Bureau, All American Sales, and the Appliance Center, all businesses and organizations with roots in the southeast region of Saline County. My name is Leslie Manning, publisher and owner of the Spotlight newspaper, and I'm excited to introduce you to our guests today, Pat Weller of rural Kipp and Janice Morris of rural Assaria. Welcome.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Pat, I asked you to be on this initial airing because I've come to value your perspective, and I'm wondering, what have your thoughts been as people have responded to the COVID-19 outbreak?
Well, there's so many different opinions or thoughts. The thoughts that we have here in rural Kansas are far different than people in New York City, the big cities. It has not affected my life whatsoever as a farmer. I make a few changes when I go to the grocery store, but life goes on for the average rural person somewhat.
So what do you think those thoughts are in a more urban area that are different from ours?
Well, I was telling my son Jim the other day, right now at this time, if somebody offered me to take care of my farm and pay all my bills, but I had to go live in New York City in a hotel or an apartment for 6 months, I would not do it for $100,000. I mean, I would be that scared of where those people are. There's people that live above them, below them, to the side, and they're told to stay in their apartment. I mean, I've always lived out in the country, and that thought just terrifies me.
So do you think it's the densely populated areas that have a higher risk of contracting the disease, or what is?
That just is just, I mean, yes, that's why you're supposed to stay apart. So the more dense it is, the harder it is, the more confined they are to their house. I just feel sad for them. And I was reading this morning that now in the lower, what do you want to say, the hood or whatever, it's really starting to take a hold in. And, you know, let's face it, when it comes to healthcare or anything, poor people always get the short end of the stick.
I've seen some comments about that too. Janice, what do you think about that comment?
Yeah, that's true. Poor people do have a harder time getting health care and affording health care. And so they're more at risk. And older people are the ones who are at risk for this disease. And they're usually the ones that have limited health care or the ability to get to health care, especially in rural Kansas where all the hospitals are closing down. They have to travel a long ways. But I do want to say one thing about the farming. I don't think the farming here is affected. I just saw a news program this morning on farmers in Georgia. Their crops are ready to harvest. The squash, the blueberries, the cabbage was another one they were talking about. and their workers can't get in. They always hire migrant workers and they can't get their work visas. And so those crops are going to rot. Those people are thinking they're going to lose their farms that have been in their family for generations because of this. And he said he can't get domestic people to help him. There are people here who are unemployment. I would think picking a few cabbages for a few days would be better than not having any income.
That's interesting. I want to talk about Lindsborg and Lindsborg Community Hospital in response to COVID-19. And the Lindsborg Community Hospital is preparing to meet the needs of the community it serves. And according to Administrator Larry Vanderweg, the Southeast region of Saline County is included in that community. In preparation for the potential surge of patients experiencing COVID-19 symptoms in the community and surrounding counties, the Lindsborg Community Hospital has made some changes. For appointments with providers, telemedicine is available during the COVID-19 outbreak. Elective procedures such as screening colonoscopies have been suspended to preserve personal protective equipment and to limit traffic in and out of the hospital to protect staff and patients. The Lindsborg Community Hospital has revisited policy and procedure for disaster and triage and updated as needed. The Lindsborg Community Hospital has implemented screening for all the people who come through the doors and has restricted visitors to one healthy family member per patient. Employees all self-screen prior to checking in. The employee self-screen is very similar to the visitor screen with both health questions and travel screening. Hospital leadership huddles daily for updates and the dissemination of information. Administration is involved in daily communication with Salina Regional Health Center and frequently with community partners such as the City of Lindsborg, USD 400, Bethany College, Bethany Home, and EMS. The Lindsborg Community Hospital acknowledges that the shortage of N95 masks and hand sanitizer is real, and they have been fortunate to be on the receiving end of both masks and sanitizers. And there are also community volunteers making masks just in case. In regards to hospital procedures, as you've learned what is happening in different hospitals, do you think that our hospitals are prepared? Do you think that flattening the curve has worked?
Can I say something about the hospital?
Sure.
I had to bring my granddaughter in for an appointment. We walked in the door. We were told to use hand sanitizer right away, asked if we had a cough or any of the symptoms, and we had none, so they checked us in. The gentleman behind us, they asked, "Do you use hand sanitizer?" And they asked, "Do you have a cough?" And he said, "Yes." They said, "Grab a mask." He was whisked off into another room. He wasn't left with us. They didn't know what the cough was, but they were very proactive, and I really appreciated that.
And
I was impressed with the whole operation at the clinic and hospital.
And you went down to Lindsborg?
Yes.
Well, the way I look at this is we're from Kansas, and Kansas is known for tornadoes. You know, we may get 15 minutes warning for a tornado to come in if we're lucky. This thing reminds me of the hurricanes that hit the South Coast. We know it's coming. It's coming. We got a chance to get ready for it. So if the Salina Hospital has not got a plan, a big plan, like what happens if we need 1,000 beds? Because quite honestly, Western Kansas, there's going to be people coming from Western Kansas in small towns that don't have hospitals. You may get, if it hits Assaria or Gypsum, you know, you could have 100 people get it a month from now. So if Salina is not prepared for this thing, I don't know where their second hospital could be set up. A hotel room, hotels, you know, have 100 rooms, could be turned into a temporary hospital. They have the rooms, they have the beds. All they need is the medical staff and some equipment. And I'm going to say, if they're not prepared for this, it's not because they didn't have the time.
And you know, I haven't noticed any news articles or publications that they are prepared and what their plans are. Again, they could use a Tony Event Center. I saw today a lot of places are using auditoriums or big venues like that to set up beds, and they could get several 100 beds in there, but we've not heard anything about if they're prepared or not.
Right.
My understanding, I did email the HR at the Salina campus of Salina Regional Medical Center, Health Center, and they do have a daily update on their website that is a video. I was really impressed at the Lynchburg Community Hospital, which is a subsidiary of the Salina Regional Health Center. They had an article out to me by March 13th. I thought that was very forward thinking, and I appreciated it.
Yeah, I agree with Janice, though, that and maybe they have got a plan in effect, but if they do, I don't think they've released it to the public. And it would, if they did say, hey, we have this plan, I think it would reassure people that we're getting ready. But if you're going to be prepared right now, maybe they should say, hey, let's get 100 volunteers trained. And hopefully, just like a generator, we won't need it. But if we do need it, it'll be there. And we can make 100 phone calls and have 100 volunteers, get them lined up now before we need them.
Yeah, I think that would be a good preparation measure. Another thing I've thought about in this situation and being prepared is whether or not my vehicle is prepared. I had been driving back and forth to Lynchburg. So I want to tell everyone a little bit about McKim's Service. McKim's Service is owned by Rob and Alicia McKim, and the service technicians include Rob McKim and Vern Cathy. The McKims purchased the mechanic shop in downtown Gypsum in 2015, and with the help of the late Vern Meyer, Sean Corbett, and Marshall Coleman, remodeled the entire building to house 4 lifts for mechanical work on all makes and models of vehicles. McKim's Service is a major repair shop as far as major mechanical and electrical repair. He and Vern work on transmission repair, heating and cooling issues, brakes and suspensions, and any electrical repair. Rob McKim says that at McKim's Service, they can do a lot of work cheaper than the big towns, and they use better parts. I've taken my 2007 Chevy Equinox to McKim's Service. Just a year ago, I broke down on my way to pick up the newspaper in Great Bend, and my vehicle required a brand new radiator. A year later, I'm still expecting to push my Chevy Equinox like it's a Honda Civic, and because I have a lot of miles on my vehicle, and I am hoping that with Rob McKim's help, I can keep driving the vehicle that I own. Let's return. I want to focus my attention on Janice. Janice Morris is the chair for the Saline County Democrats. Janice, tell us what changes have been made to the Democrat primary in response to the COVID-19 outbreak.
Excuse me. We are going to have a strictly mail-in primary. The ballots are already in the mail to all registered Democrats. You should be receiving them any day. They were mailed on March the 30th. You will vote, put your ballot in a privacy sleeve, stick it in an envelope, and stick it back in the mail, prepaid mail. You don't even have to put a stamp on it. Now, the nice thing about this, if you're not registered or you're not registered as a Democrat, you can change your party registration or register. The best way to do it is through kansasvotes.org. And that will automatically send your voter registration to the Secretary of State's office. Now, it is my understanding that there are still people working in the Saline County Clerk's office. You can call them. They can mail you a voter registration form, and you can fill it out and send it back to them. But that takes too much time. So the best way to do it is to do the kansasvotes.org. And that will get it directly to the Secretary of State's office. Then you can get a hold of the state party webpage, kansasdems.org, I believe, or call the Kansas Democratic Party in Topeka, and they will send you a ballot. You can request a ballot if yours doesn't come normally by April the 10th, then you can call and request a ballot or go online and order a ballot. You have until April the 24th to get it or to get one and get it back to the party by May the 2nd. And then the ballots will be tabulated at party headquarters in Topeka. We have canceled, we had set up with Saline South. That's where our in-person voting was going to be on May the 2nd. But with the school closed and with this disease not knowing where it's going to be, we felt it was safer and better just to do everything by mail. They can also contact me. I will give my cell phone out, and the number is 785-822-4296 if they have questions. We've also moved back the national convention. The national delegate convention will be August the 17th in Milwaukee. And the delegate process will be moved back. I don't have the exact dates. If you want to be a delegate to the national convention, there are some steps to go through, and that will be later on, probably sometime in June.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, that's good information. Good information for our community. And so I have a few questions for you, but before we move on to that, I want to talk a little bit about Frisbee Construction and who they have been in our community as a business. So Frisbee Construction was started by George Frisbee in 1949. His goal was to build quality projects at a fair price to his customers. And George's family still runs Frisbee Construction with the same motto. George was also instrumental in getting Southeast of Saline built and recognized as one of the best schools in Kansas. George and his wife Jean set up a scholarship account with the school for all students in need. Frisbee Construction has employees that have been with the company for over 50 years. It is a wonderful, family-oriented business that values its employees and customers, and Frisbee Construction wants to thank all of their customers for allowing them to work with you. So why is it that the Democrat Party has really pushed if you want to register as a Democrat? Is there a reason why it might be something I would want to do, though I'm not registered as a Democrat? Why would I change my registration at this point?
If you want to vote in the Democratic primary for a Democratic candidate, you have to be a Democrat. So that's why they have same-day registration. You can register as a Democrat. And next month, you can go back and register as unaffiliated or Republican, whatever you choose. In the primary, it's presidential primary. It's kind of important, so we can choose the best nominee. But again, when you go to the county election process, a lot of times if there's two Democrats running or two Republicans running against each other, a Democrat will switch to a Republican Party so he can choose the one that's might be easier to be. If he supports the other candidate, he will I don't remember how you vote now, but anyway, if you're trying to sway the election a little bit by your one vote, that's why you might switch.
So is the Democrat Party concerned that if they allow, a bunch of Republicans to come in and register as a Democrat for this primary, that group will sway the vote and vote for a primary candidate that then Donald Trump can beat?
That's a possibility. That's a possibility, but rarely does there ever be enough people switch over to make that difference. It just doesn't happen. It has to be a tremendous amount of people to do that, to make it sway the whole state's outcome of the primary.
So do you think that some people will register as a Democrat just so they can, because they see that there's a good Democrat candidate that even maybe might do a better job than our current president? Do you think that there will be?
Oh, yes, we've already know there's a lot of switchover because of that. And if it were another Republican, there probably wouldn't be that switchover. So yes, that's true. We've got, I've fielded a half a dozen phone calls for Republicans who want to switch party for this general election. So yes, in this case, it could influence the outcome.
Has the
But again,
Democrat?
I think a thing to remember, and the reason we want everybody to be a Democrat, twofold there, is that the Democratic Party pays for the primary. The state doesn't pay for this. The county doesn't pay for it. It is paid for by the party. Same as the Republicans. If they chose to have a presidential primary, they would be paying for their election. So that's why we want everybody to be a Democrat. Plus, somehow the DNC uses our voter turnout to decide how much money they're going to spend in Kansas. So it's important for us to get a good turnout to get money for our other down ballot candidates in the state of Kansas.
Okay. I hadn't thought of the logic. I didn't know that that's how you were able to get funding for other elections.
Yes.
Do you
Jen?
know a number of how many switches that have been in Kansas?
I don't have any idea. And I haven't seen any data on that yet. So we may know a
Janice,
little more after.
I got a question for you, and it's not so much of the Democrat voting, but this COVID, since you had to mail out information, can you, and for other groups to help them maybe do in the same situation of this, what is one of the advantages and disadvantages of doing that?
Okay, the advantage would be, again, we would keep our distance. We wouldn't have a lot of people congregating in one spot at this point. And found that mail, the virus doesn't live long on the mail. So it is safer. And the mail will be coming in and it will be left until May the 2nd. Now the ballots that come in on May the 2nd might have a possibility of having the bacteria still on it or the virus, where the ones that have been sitting there for 2 or 3 weeks, it will be dead and gone by then. So that's the disadvantage, would be the last group of ballots that come in. And I'm sure they're going to handle them with gloves and so forth.
Sure.
Has the Democrat Party had a primary before?
Yeah. Oh, we had caucuses. Oh, those things were absolutely awful. A caucus, you come in, you register, and we check your registration. Then you go to the group that you support. If it's Edward, you supported him. If it was Obama, if it was Hillary, if it was whoever else, you all went into a corner. Then you had a vote. We had to hand count the people. If your candidate didn't have 15% of the vote that was there, that candidate was out. So then you had a chance to move to somebody else's camp. And then we took another count. And then if another candidate didn't have 15% of that vote, and he dropped out and you were down to 2, and then delegates were awarded in a percentage of, Hillary got two delegates and Obama got 10 or whatever. It was when it got down to those 2, then they were awarded some delegates. Then all that delegates were put together, and the party then did the delegate selection, or he got 10 and she got 12 and somebody else got 6, and that way. So It's always been a caucus. I don't think we'll ever go back to the caucus because we were splitting families up last time. I know one family, the mom and son were in one camp and the dad was in another camp. And it was, you just didn't want to spend your whole Saturday afternoon at a caucus. So this primary is a better way to go, but it's very costly. It was going to cost us $3,000 just to have the machine and a trained person at the South to do this, and 3,000 for all the other 65 places they had set up. So,
And I mean, now that we're looking at the COVID-19 outbreak, you wouldn't have been able to have a caucus.
no,
What would you have, you can't do that by paper. So what a insightful
yeah,
change the Democrat Party made this year.
yeah, it was just a fortunate choice that we did this, that we had already had it on the books and planned to at least have some mail in, because there are some older folks who just like to do it in person. So that's what we were accommodating by having the same day. And it would have been easier to register and get a ballot same day and switch over. And that's what we were trying to do. We were trying to get the regular Democrats to mail their ballot in and save May the 2nd for people who wanted to change their voter registration, or the older folks who wanted to come in and just be sure they handed in a ballot. So that was our plan from way back in January. This was already started to do this. And then we had to switch over to strictly mail.
Okay. Can you repeat the website for folks that might want to change there was
Okay.
a website to go to change your registration.
It's ksvotes.org.
Okay.
And if you go to Facebook and you put that in, it pulls up the site for you.
Oh,
so
fantastic.
Oh, and you can also go to Saline County Dems Facebook to get some more information too. I'm going to be posting a little bit more date finals and some phone numbers and stuff on there here next couple of days.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Janice, for sharing. Pat, did you have anything else to share? Any questions?
No, not especially.
Okay.
Just tell everybody, I think we should just remember the ones that are less fortunate in these times. And it just, I'm not one to, I'm not a religious pusher, but I think everybody with any common sense realizes that we are far luckier where we live than a lot of other people. And that really concerns me, how much pain that some people are going through at this time. And that's a real, sorry to leave you on that downer, but I guess that's, I don't have anything happy to say about it, but we'll just everybody has to do their best.
Yeah, I think that's a valid statement. So thank you for sharing.
I guess, what do you think about, my question is the stimulus check that's coming out, and I'd like to hear Janice's thoughts on it. What are you thinking about it?
Oh, I don't know. There are people who need it, who have gotten laid off. Although I like the money that they're giving small businesses so they can hire back their people and keep their people on payroll. I think part of the small business loan thing is if you hire back your employees, if you pay rent, there was one other thing you had to do with the money. Pay your utilities, I think. Those three things, if you did that part of that loan, that part of the loan would be forgiven. And I think we need to do, because just in Lynchburg alone, Farley's is closed, China's closed, something to do with Pizza Hut and their delivery. I didn't quite understand that note on Facebook, but it's affecting a lot of small businesses, and that's what bothers me. Yes, the stimulus is nice, and some of those, but it's taking so long. The people have been off work already 2 weeks. They've had no income, and they're going to need that money for groceries and rent. And
Yeah, I agree. It's just like me, it's not affecting me so much. I'm almost going to feel guilty of getting the money. So I plan on hitting the places that it got hurt, just like the restaurant in Gypsum. I try to go down there 2 or 3 times a month, but I will probably up that when I get that check and they reopen so they can get a really good, strong couple months after this thing hits to help out. Same way with some of the businesses in Salina, the ones that got hurt.
Yeah, I'm going to do that too. I'm also going to send some money to the food bank and to Salina Shares. They do laundry for people who can't afford it, and that's
a good
they
idea.
need money. So that's what I intend to do with ours, because true, we don't really need it, but I'm going to share it.
Good idea.
That's a good question. And that directly relates to your last statement too, of being concerned about those who are less fortunate. And in this day and age, that's not a person, it's not necessarily a person that has been laid off from a job, but it might be a business owner who can't stay open right now. And I know when I delivered the newspaper to Ad Astra Coffee House, Tammy was looking at what that was going to take to not be open downtown at this point. I'd seen even a post on Facebook about, here these downtown Salina businesses have weathered the construction era, and now this. And so I really appreciate that you brought up the concept of supporting these local business owners who I find the majority of the businesses in our area, whether they're deemed essential by a stay-at-home order or not, are essential to how we do life around here, whether it's the tourism industry being promoted in downtown Salina and downtown Lindsborg, or the agricultural industry when we're looking at elevators and implement dealers and fuel shops. It all works together, and it keeps people employed, and it brings entertainment into town. I just think I really do hope that we make good decisions in this time so that we can come out on the other end in a place to build back up and be a strong community.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
Give them time. Read my column in the Spotlight this month. It's going to be talking about staying at home. I have some very strong opinions on that. Oh, it should be an interesting article.
Great. Thank you, Janice. Pat, do you have a cartoon ready for this issue of the Spotlight?
Oh, I'll try to figure one out.
Okay. Well, I thank everyone for watching this episode of Face to Face in the Spotlight. Tune in next week, and we are going to air this through Facebook at 5 on Fridays, and I hope that everyone enjoys it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.